Okay, we're the Android Math Notebook team. My name's John Chris.
I'm Alex Hunt.
Okay.
This is part of the demo later.
Before we can get into the Android Math Notebook, I just want to mention our project from last term, Convolat. For people who don't know, it was a very comprehensive file conversion tool. I'm not really going to talk about it much, but we're still working on it intermittently. We're going to have a release soon. It has a bunch of new features. It's great. Everyone should use it for their file conversions. Okay, so Android Math Notebook. Android Math Notebook, besides being a mouthful to say, is a tablet application that's very ambitious. The goal is to completely replace pen and paper for note-taking, specifically for math, like you see on the screen. We want to digitize text like that and just make it so that you can search it, export it, all that kind of stuff. So one of the main problems with this is handwriting recognition is pretty difficult to do. So we're trying to, we found a library that'll actually take care of a lot for us. It's kind of difficult. It's great for us. It lets you support all kinds of symbols. So the more we're able to train it, we can support all kinds of LaTeX characters, anything you'd want. So we need to compile it for the NDK using the J and I, so that we can actually, because it's a C++ library. So in order to run it on the Android, we have to use the native library for that.
And if you don't know what the NDK is, it's just a bridge for Android that allows you to run or call C++ code from Java and compile it for the Android device. So it's really helpful. So one of the things we wanted to do that's special about this particular notebook is called math mode. So basically, when you're in math mode, you'll be able to create what we're going to call math blocks. So whenever you start writing, if you're not writing on an existing math block, it'll make a new one. So say you write, some equation like that, 24y plus 38 equals 7x. It'll digitize that just like it does in writing mode, except you can manipulate this equation. And it'll also, in math mode, you'll be able to use special characters like summations and other things that aren't available in regular mode. So now, if you write, so the black is what was already there. So if you write what's in green here, negative 38 underneath. So you want to subtract 38 from both sides. It will do all this. Everything in red, it fills in for you. And it'll actually resolve and solve that for you. Now, this is a little different than Touch with Math. We actually did talk with that group a lot. You're not actually dragging characters around and manipulating in that sense. This is more of just algebraic manipulation, as you would be solving an equation on your own. And we thought that would be pretty cool. So then, in the future, we also thought maybe we can pass off the expressions to some external server, like Wolfram Alpha, and just solve things for you as well. So that's down the road that we were thinking of. So then, once you have these math blocks, we want to be able to export to formats like MathML and LaTeX. We thought that would be really helpful. Especially because the whole idea behind this project is you're taking notes in a class. So especially in math class, you really want a notebook usually. You can't really type notes in, say, Notepad. It's hard to keep up that way. So if you could digitize your notes by just writing in your own handwriting, we thought that'd be really helpful. And that actually doesn't exist right now. It's kind of sad. So that's where the inspiration for this project came from. And then once it's digital, you'll be able to search through it. You'll be able to save it. And we also want to be able to export to other formats like PDF. That would also be a useful thing. So then we're going to support undo redo, which is obviously you have to have undo redo in any kind of application like this. And also, the last thing was easy error correction. So since we're recognizing handwriting, I mean, we have libTK, it's good, but it's going to be wrong sometimes. But it does give you confidence values on different things, and it tells you the next most likely thing that it could be. So let's say you write an A, and it gets it wrong. I probably should have made it wrong, but we're going to highlight what it thought it is in green, and then the next two likely cases next to it, and we'll put that right above the letter for you. So that if you want to change it, say, oh, that's wrong, you can just click the next one on the list, say that you actually wanted an O. You just click that and it'll switch it for you. And libTK will also do full words as well, so we can have something similar to Android's existing word recognition as well. And we're going to play around a lot with this, because if you notice, this is right above the letter and you want to write an exponent, where do you write it? So we're going to play around with that a lot as well, to make sure that that works. Maybe move it up a little bit. So far, this is our app. You select your modes down here in the bottom left. This is running on a phone. Our target is actually tablets with a stylus which we'll show in a second. But it'll work on anything running Android. So you select your mode down here. You can have free writing, recognition mode, or math mode. Now, free writing is important because if you're just drawing a diagram in a class, you don't want it to try to recognize that as some character, so you'll switch out of it, draw your square or whatever, and go back in. Then undo, redo should be really convenient. It's right by your thumb. And then if you hit settings, you can save, load, or you can go in and you can change certain parameters. One thing I've been spending a lot of time on recently is the control scheme, because you don't want to, if you're zoomed out like this, it's really hard to write in between those lines. You probably want to zoom in. So we did put in scaling support and panning support already. And the way the panning works is, well, I thought it was cool at first. It detects the pressure of your finger. As you're writing, if it's a really small press, it'll think it's a pen or the tip of your finger and it'll draw. And then if you put your finger flat on it and move around, it'll pan around. Turns out not all Android devices actually support that. So we might have to think of something else. But one of the things in the settings menu is you can change control schemes. So maybe you'll have a 2-finger pan, and we'll play around with that as well. So if your phone can't support it, you can use it. So with that, are there any questions? I'm going to go in and set up a demo now.
Yeah, I'll take questions while he gets the demo ready.
No. So, yeah. Well, one of the things I've run into on a lot of handwriting apps for Android and stuff is the fact that the multi-touch handler on Android only comes back roughly 10 to 15 times per second with the location of your stylus or where your pointer is. And when I like to write really fast. Maybe like 4 or 5 characters per second, which means I get roughly 3 data points per character, and it just doesn't work. Do you have any ideas on how you can solve that?
Well, I don't think that should really matter, because what we were planning on doing is we store the list of points basically where you've drawn, and that's actually how the handwriting recognition works. So anything on screen, it'll be reading those points and then digitizing it behind you.
So if you've only got 3 points for a character, you can...
Well, when you say 3 points for the character, we have every pixel we filled in.
Sure.
So I'm not sure I'm following you.
It's just that it might be a hardware limitation. It just doesn't sample that fast.
Oh, you mean you're actually not going to be able to draw the pixels?
Can you type that in? I can take this question.
Okay.
Yeah, we did notice that Androids just inherently suck at touch input. We're going to do what we can. You might have to slow down though. And I did notice on iPad it's actually much faster. I'm an Android fan, but I'll admit the iPad's touch recognition is much better.
No, so I want to ask you about Android tablets. So there are some tablets that run Froyo, some tablets that run Honeycomb, and some tablets that run Ice Cream Sandwich. Yeah. Or none of them yet. Yeah, there's something. But there will be, right? So right. What versions, what's the lowest version you support?
We targeted 2.2 because I think
okay.
we have 50% of the market right now.
Yep.
And actually, when I see this tablet. So we were testing on this. This is actually an HP touchpad, which we have Ice Cream Sandwich running on. This is where I noticed that not all devices actually support the pressure or the size. This just returns 0 no matter what is touching it. So that's when we thought, well, we probably need some different ways of taking input. But yeah, so we're going to try to support every version from 2.2 all the way up. And I actually bumped up the minimum SDK to 2.3 because they add some new features that you can, where Android will actually tell you what it is, if it's a stylus, a finger, or whatever. But that didn't work on this either, so I went back down to 2.2 and we'll work from there.
And what do you do? So, maybe I'm not familiar. So, when you touch, right? Is there any way to determine whether or not that's a finger that's coming down or a stylus?
It's all based on the size.
Okay.
So if it doesn't support that, you don't know.
Okay. And then, because I've seen some apps do you can drag up a palm area or define a region where the user can write. So then that way you could still manipulate the UI and the rest of the screen. I don't know if that's a concern or not.
Yeah, we looked at those. So the existing things that use recognition at all do have a little box at the bottom. But we thought it would be great if you could just write on a piece of paper like you would on an actual notebook. So that's what we're going for. If it's impossible, well, we'll try. But so far, so he just got this is running on my phone right now. And can you hold the stylus up? This is just a pen for Android. It works with capacitive touch screens, and it just has a little spherical thing on the bottom.
After that, I want Griffin to write something and then see how well Griffin's thinking.
You can test it. It's actually running really slowly now. I'm assuming because of the VNC server we're running.
I wouldn't.
But you can test it on the tablet. That should be fine.
Yeah, so it works the best on this thing.
if you'll be able to see it.
We'll see. Yeah, I was trying to run VNC on this, but this actually can't connect to 802.1x. It's broken right now. So, hi. I don't know. It's hard. We wanted to connect this to VNC so we could put it up, but it didn't work. But yeah, so you can zoom out and zoom in. We implemented that. It's pretty smooth. As you can see, we're going to limit how much you can zoom out because you can't see the page when you go out too far. But you can still write out here if you wanted to. And then, so we implemented a settings menu where we're going to just populate all the different things you can change in there, including the threshold at which it decides if it's a finger or not, because different devices will be different, and we're going to try to make it smart and guess what it is based on history, but we always want an override in case that doesn't work. So, and that'll be a one-time thing that'll change. On my phone, it's very, very consistent, and I moved it over to another tablet, and it worked on that as well. Then we tried this tablet, and it didn't work at all. So, are there any other questions?
So, I guess, how much have you tried writing on like a tablet device? Because a lot of the time I feel like, especially on the iPad when I write using the stylus, multi-touch conflicts with, my palm because I'm resting it on the screen, for example. And so most of the like iOS apps, when they're taking, they have a pane on the bottom for actually doing the input, which is like a zoomed version of a specific portion of the page.
Right.
Which makes it easier because then you're not like entering spurious inputs about it.
We are going to try to detect the palm of your hand because, again, you do want to rest it on the screen. And that all boils down to the size as well. It's really obvious if the size works, if it's the palm of your hand or not. And we can also detect, based on histories, if you get a random noise. So if you're writing and you get random touch events somewhere else, say your sleeve hits the screen or something like that we can actually detect that, and we'll be able to filter that out. And again, we're going to try to make it not clunky, so it is just really solid and really usable, and we'll do the best we can. If we were hoping to be able to use this tablet, actually, not have to buy one to test, but if that doesn't support size, we do need it to detect things like palms, so I guess we're going to have to buy another tablet. But yeah, we're going to try to make that work really well. Well, thank you very much.